And today we come to the book of Colossians. So, yesterday we finished Philippians. Today we come to the next epistle of Paul's. And so we come to Colossians. Now, Colossians is not one of the longest books in the Bible, it's only 95 verses. And the last about dozen verses or so are very much greetings and welcomes. Um, and so it's more of a connection there. Yet, even with the small number of verses, the point of getting that Colossians gets to is incredibly in depth. And in essence, many and various things going on. But the number one connection in this book of Colossians is the connection between Christology and cosmology. In other words, what is the connection between Jesus and the creation? What is the difference? What is the connecting point between Christ and the created order? In Christ's work as creator and reconciler of the world. And so many and various things going on here. But that gets to the center part of this book. As Paul writes to those in Colossae, however, also Laodicea, Hierapolis, the areas around, also kind of a letter that's written to the church as a whole, but written for this specific purpose. Now, we run into gentlemen we've met a little bit ago, Epaphroditus, and he is also mentioned in here, and he's probably the one that brought Epaphras, that's also the one that brought what was going on that brought forward this letter, because Paul didn't know these people. Paul had not founded this church. Paul, as he went forward, probably the only ones there was a small handful that he knew, probably especially of the household of Philemon. Now, he hears of a heresy that's taking place in Colossae. So he writes this letter. And what is the heresy that he's speaking very specifically against? He does bring up some specifics. There are some things about some of the Jewish practices, festivals, dietary scruples that they had, but this goes far beyond just what the Judaizers did, as we've gone through a couple of months ago. This gets very tightly into the person and work of Christ. As Paul is writing here, he is very intentionally writing who is Jesus and what does he do. Now, it seemingly the heresy falls very close to a second, third century group called the Gnostics. In today's world, we see a lot of similarities of this heresy in the Jehovah's Witness as well. So we run into a lot of these kind of things taking place with what Paul's talking about. Now, when we get further into this, we see that Colossians that we're about to start, you're going to notice there's some it's both written by Paul, so a lot of similarities to all of Paul's letters. However, it's most closely tied to, in letter, in structure, in word choiceage, to Ephesians and to Philemon. So Philemon, Colossians, and Ephesians are the three books that are very tied together in how they are written and put together. Possibly as Paul was doing this, he had somebody helping to write these three as he was in prison. It is in a prison epistle as well. I would say most likely in Rome. Possible Caesarea. I'd say most likely in Rome. But this is written. So you have the same time, the same style, and you have a lot of the same people overlapping here too with these three books. Onesimus, Colossians 4:9, Philemon 10-12. Artychitus, Colossians 4:10, Philemon 24. Mark, Colossians 4:10, Philemon 24. Epaphras, Colossians 1:7-8, 4:12-13, Philemon 23. Luke, Colossians 4:14, Philemon 24. Demas, Colossians 4:14, Philemon 24. Archippus, Colossians 4:17, Philemon 2. And so you can just kind of brought that list out, number of connections with the same people among those books too. So as he's writing this, have that kind of in the back of your mind, knowing that, and especially some of the word and thought pattern between Ephesians and Colossians, but also you have the household of Philemon very well connected there too. And this is where his household was. And the letter was written to his household, part of this congregation. So you get a lot of these connections with these three letters taking place. So as we go forward, I pray that having kind of an understanding, Asia Minor, Colossians, about 100 miles from Ephesians, from Ephesus, will kind of help to bring us forward in seeing God at work in the person of Christ and what he did